In this video, I'm going to revisit a no indicator day trading strategy, which I shared with you here on this channel almost 3.5 years ago. Back in 2020, this strategy had been making consistent profits for more than 12 years, but today I wanted to show you how it's been doing since then up until today in January 2024. The short answer is yes, it is still working. It does still have an edge, as we can see by the equity curve here. But stay with me as I firstly go through the strategy rules in case you want to trade it yourself, and then we have a look in more detail at the recent performance. Although I said that this was a day trading strategy, we actually use the daily bars to find the setup. However, once we're in a trade, we exit at the end of the day, so trades are never open for more than 24 hours. The trade setup is actually very simple, and I'm going to show you how to find them in a moment. We're going to look at some slides as usual, but this time I've actually purposely took some screenshots from a 10-page PDF manual which I created for this strategy back in 2020 when I made the first video. And of course, if you're interested in looking at the full written rules for this strategy, you can get that PDF absolutely free. I'll leave the link for that in the description down below. And I'll also link the original video which I made about this strategy. Okay, let's have a look at this setup, which I call the kangaroo tail pattern. This is a strategy which works on dollar yen, and as I said, we're looking at the daily bars to find this setup. I've marked on the chart all the short sell setups and all the buy setups. And these setups occur looking at this short sell setup here. We're looking for this center bar to have a high, which is higher than both the bar on the left and the right. Okay, so it's got this poking out, this tail, this kangaroo tail. That's where the name comes from. For a buy setup, we've got a bar which is lower than the bar to the left and to the right, leaving us a downward tail. That's a buy setup. And if you look through, we can see these tails. There's a tail up there, tail down there. We've got a setup for both trades there, tail down there and a tail down there. So once we see that setup on the daily bar, then we put our orders in. I'm going to show you an example for a long trade here. In the center here, or bar number 2, we've got our kangaroo tail to the downside. So that's a buy setup. So we've got a lower low than the bars 1 and 3, which gives us the kangaroo tail. Of course, we won't know we've got this setup until bar 3 here is complete. Once bar 3 is drawn, then we can look at this previous bar and see if it's a kangaroo tail or not. Once this bar is complete, we can see that we have got the kangaroo tail and it's time to place our orders. So what we do is, looking here, we set a buy stop order at the high of bar 3. So the market opens here, and if it rallies, like it has done here, then it gets us into the trade. It buys into the trade when price breaks above the high of this previous bar. Once that happens, and we're in the trade, we exit the position at the end of the day or end of the session. And of course, the opposite would be for short trades. We would be putting the stop order at the low of bar 3. So it's a very easy setup to identify, and the order is kind of a set and forget. If the market does rally through our price, then we will get in. If it doesn't, we won't get in. And here's a little screenshot of the 10-page PDF which I created back in 2020 when I first came up with this strategy. And I want to note here that I've given you the basic rules in the previous slide. But in the original video, I did come up with a modification which actually doubles the profitability of each trade. I'm not going to go into details here. All the details for that modification is in this 10-page PDF. And of course, I'll leave the link in the description down below for that PDF so you can immediately download it and have a look at those modified rules. So let's go and have a look at the recent performance of this strategy. We'll be using MultiCharts, I'll be using data from Oanda, and all the testing will be using one full lot or 100,000 units. Firstly, we're going to be looking at the strategy which is unmodified, like we've just seen in the rules on those slides. And the data we're going to be looking at is a test from the 1st of January 2008 through to the 19th of January 2024. Now you'll notice I have got this on a 10-minute chart, but don't worry about that. We are looking for those signals on the daily chart. It's just, this is the way I program it in MultiCharts to get a bit more definition. The original strategy, or the original video, was actually released in September 2020, so well over 3 years ago, but the strategy was probably developed a little bit before the video was actually released. So looking at the results, there's what the equity curve looks like. So we can see we're making new highs right up until December last year, so only 3 weeks ago, we were making new highs in equity. So that's good. We look at the annual period analysis. We can see that obviously 2020 the strategy was developed. 2021 we made money. 2022 it made money. 2023 was a very good year, and 2024 at the moment we're showing a tiny loss, but look, we've only had 4 trades in January this year so far. Looking at the number of trades, quite a lot of trades. Percent profitable, it's only 50% profitable. Average trade value, 4,500 yen. That's equivalent to only 4.5 pips. And as I mentioned in the original video, this is why I actually came up with a trade filter, because 4.5 pips is just a bit too low to be trading. By the time we've paid some costs, there's not going to be much money left in the trade for us. The modification or the filters which I included, they did actually double that average trade value. Let's just look a little bit more closely at recent performance. If I adjust the chart to, let's say, the 1st of September 2020, which was when I released the video, and we'll have a look at the performance. Now let's have a look at that 3+ years. Average trade has actually increased, so that shows that recent performance is actually a little bit better than performance over the whole sample period. And that's what the equity curve looks like. It's not the smoothest, but certainly is going up, is going in the right direction. We can see, shown by the green dots, we've got new highs all the way up until very recently. So what we're seeing here is the performance which is completely out of sample after the strategy was developed. While we can clearly see that new highs of the equity curve are still being made, proving that this strategy does still have an edge, the average trade value is still a little bit small. By the time we've paid some trading costs, there won't be much profit left in this strategy. And I talked all about this in the original video, and that's why I came up with a filter which drastically improves the average trade value. In the original video, we saw that it actually doubled the profit per trade. So in a moment, that's what we're going to look at. We're going to check the recent performance, but this time we're going to be using the trade filter. Just before we look at that though, I want to offer you another free PDF for those of you who are struggling to find profitable rule-based strategies. At the moment, you can download my 22-page Beat the Markets strategy guidebook absolutely free. And in there, you'll find 3 more profitable rule-based strategies with all the rules and the backtests included. If you find the link down in the description, you can download that immediately today. And for those of you who want to take your trading to the next level, you might want to enroll in my popular trading course. And actually in that course, you'll find 6 more profitable rule-based strategies. Find out more about how that course might help you using the link also in the description down below. Now, let's go and have a look at that final performance report using the filters on this strategy. Okay, now let's look at the version which has the trade filters. And you can see we're looking at this workspace here, number 3. And these are the exact same workspaces which I used in the original video. But of course, we're seeing just over 3 years of extra data here now. So looking at the performance report, here's the equity curve. And we can see that it's not quite as consistent as not using the filters, is it? We've got this horrible little downturn here before we start to go up again. Let's have a look at the annual period analysis. And we can see that in 2020, when it was developed, it finished making money. 2021 was a good year. 2022 was when we saw that downturn, and it was a small losing year, just of 35,000 yen. And 2023, things started picking up again. And we are showing a loss in 2024 at the moment, but we've only had 2 trades so far. Let's have a look at the average trade value. Average trade this time is 7,500 yen, so much larger than with the unfiltered version. Not quite double like we saw with the original data. Just going back to the equity curve again, if I look at September is about here on the chart, which was when I created the strategy in the first place. And we can see from September right the way through to the highs, which are about end of October 2022. So what we did see was over a 2-year period where the strategy did continue to make money until we saw that downturn eventually. And then we've actually seen an upturn, and maybe that the performance is on its way back up again and it will continue to make new highs. So that's the updated performance report for the strategy which uses the filters. Looking at the unfiltered version of the kangaroo tail setup, we can see that it is still making money, and results have been pretty consistent for over 3 years since I released that first video with the rules. That's good, and I'm pretty pleased with that. However, I'm more interested in the filtered version of the kangaroo tail setup, because that's the one which has more profit per trade, and that's the one that's far more tradable than the unfiltered one. What we saw with the filtered version is that it had a good 2 years of still making more profit since I first released the video, but then it had a bit of a downturn, and that resulted in a losing 2022. However, during 2023, the performance has started to turn around and pick back up again. Using trade filters like I have done in this strategy can be both good and bad. While they can definitely bring up the quality of the average trade value, making more money per trade, you do have to be careful. I've found that generally the more filters that you use, the more chance you have of overfitting or curve fitting to your backtest data. And what that might lead to is results in future trading, which is what's important, not looking like it did in the backtest. And we've seen a bit of that with this strategy, haven't we? We've seen that the unfiltered version has gone on to be quite consistent since the original video. However, with the filtered version, that hasn't been quite as consistent. We've had good periods, but we've had bad periods as well. As I always say, it's very important to have a system in place which can detect when each strategy is starting to underperform or completely break altogether. The quicker that you can detect when something's underperforming, the quicker you can stop trading it and focus on your other strategies which are performing well. I have a system for this, of course, and you can learn more about that in my trading course for those of you who are interested. So I hope you found this video interesting. I always find it interesting and enjoy looking over older strategies which I've created. Some obviously do much better than others. I don't show you all the strategies which I create because there are hundreds and hundreds, but I certainly can show you the strategies which I've created and published here on this channel. Well, that's about it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please give the video a thumbs up and hang around for more strategy videos like this one in the future. I hope to see you on the next one, but until then, this is Jared Goodwin, and thank you.